Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 8. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Happy Tuesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Steelers on an off day today, but that doesn't mean we get off, I take it, right?
I wish it did. Can we have it that way? That'd be nice.
Yeah. We'll have, I'm sure there'll be something come up that'll keep us busy today. It always does. Get back into the film a little bit more maybe and start looking ahead a little bit to this third preseason game that the Steelers will have Sunday night against the Tennessee Titans on the road. And Mike Tomlin talked yesterday after practice about how they're using this week as kind of a dry run, if you will, as are a lot of most teams around the NFL. But the unique thing about it, I guess, when it comes to the Steelers is, they're now preparing for a Sunday night game, and their first game of the season is a Sunday night game against the New England Patriots as well. So and on the road at that. So just something else falling into place. I'm not saying that it's a huge advantage, but anytime you can kind of exactly simulate what's going on, and let's make no mistake about it, a good probably almost third maybe of this roster will be guys that weren't with this team probably last year, so it gets those guys more ready than obviously the veterans or the returning guys and along those lines there. So the Steelers won't practice today. The players have off. They'll be back at work on Wednesday. And the only real thing that makes this not kind of a simulation week is that normally Mike Tomlin would have a Tuesday press conference if this was a real regular season week. But he's going to hold off on that until Friday, I believe, about 12:30, 12:45 Eastern time, somewhere around in there. But he will be talking after practice, I think, after Wednesday and after Thursday's practice. So the next official kind of press conference we'll hear from Tomlin is on Friday. But he did have quite a bit to say, or at least some notable things to say, after yesterday's practice.
Yeah, let's jump into that, and let's start with the injury report. And I kind of joked about it. I'm not going to freak out about it. I hopefully didn't come off that way on Twitter. But Vance McDonald is day-to-day. Tomlin did, I think, intentionally add the caveat that he's going to be fine. But anytime Vance McDonald pops up on the injury report, you got to note it.
Yeah, you do, especially with his injury history and all, as you said, noted. He says just day to day he'll be fine. So we'll have to we'll have to trust Tomlin on this one for sure. And look, I mean, Vance played a handful of snaps in that Saturday night game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Caught one pass for I think 5 yards, but fumbled it forward out of bounds and all. But I mean, he did get some playing time in. You would obviously hope that he's able to go with the rest of the starters that Tomlin decides to play Sunday night against the Titans. And we don't know yet how much some of those people are going to play, but I did notice that during in the photos that were posted after practice on Steelers.com, that it looked like Devin Bush was back doing something. He of course missed the second preseason game with some sort of shoulder issue. Looked like he was back going again, and it looked like there were some pictures of Marquise Pouncey and David DeCastro getting some sort of reps there as well too. So we'll probably, hopefully, I should say, see both of those guys for the first time this preseason. And we don't know how long Ben's going to play. He should play. I went back and looked at last year, and I think he played, 3 series, 20-something snaps, somewhere along in those lines. And, I think it's all going to depend on how obviously if you get a 3 and out, a couple 3 and outs, he's going to stay in there a little bit. But I would think somewhere around 20 or so snaps for whatever first string offense plays, and then get them out of the game, and then we'll see who takes it on from there.
Yeah, I'm expecting about a quarter for Ben, like you said. The game circumstance could change things. They got to really 10-player drive to open things up. That may be it. They get a couple 3-and-outs. Ben may go a little bit longer, but yeah, I think about what last year brought will be the case for this year. Devin Bush hopefully will be able to play, and then one guy that's hopefully going to play too, and might need it more than anybody else, even though he's not expected to make a huge impact in the regular season, is Sutton Smith. Unfortunately missed the Chiefs game. Sounds like he's going to give it his best shot to be out there for Tennessee, and boy, does he need it.
Boy, does he indeed need it, right? I mean,
Yep.
You talk about a guy, and I got to stop jinxing these guys, right? I mean, we've talked about, this is a guy that's probably going to log the most snaps of any Steelers player throughout the preseason, and here we are 2 games into it, and he has 0 thus far. And I don't know how much, what other way to put it, that he's going to have to make an impact on special teams and in a hurry more than anything. Really, at this point, I mean, anything that he gives you defensively, I think, is just gravy. But I mean, he's, if he dresses and goes, one would think that he's going to get a lot of core work on special teams and try to get Danny Smith to give him the rose there. And another guy, obviously, we'll see what happens with Chickalo, who Mike Tomlin mentioned after the game the other night has some sort of a chest injury. Early speculation is minor. We would expect guys like T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree to play some amount of snaps against Tennessee, but after those 2 guys leave, which might be a quarter and a half or maybe around halftime, who's going to take over then? Obviously Tuzar Skipper, you would think, is going to see some playing time. Chickalo, if healthy enough, would. They obviously signed the kid off the street, Christian Kuntz, who I think got maybe a little bit of playing time the other night against the Chiefs, and then Sutton Smith will probably get some time at the other outside linebacker spot there, maybe later in the game along with Tuzar Skipper there, but. Boy, Sutton Smith really has to make an impact in a hurry, especially when it seems like he's battling, not only, Tuzar Skipper, who, by the way, I think only has like 3 special team snaps. I mean, you want to talk about another guy that he's done enough. He's obviously done enough what we think as a pass rusher defensively and all. But, I mean, once again, and you go back to what Keith Butler had said about Ola Adene, was he's got to stick out on special teams. And you would think the same thing would hold true for any other outside or inside linebacker. So not only is Sutton Smith battling a guy like Tuzar Skipper, he's battling a guy like UG3, Ulysses Gilbert III, and maybe a guy even we talked it's probably a bit of a long shot, but a guy like Trey Edmonds as well, maybe even a fifth safety like Marcus Allen.
Yeah, and with Sutton Smith, I mean, I think he's going to play, but I wonder if they're going to have to kind of have him on a pitch count a little bit, just because this is football conditioning there, just kind of getting back into the swing of things. I mean, maybe he'll be wide open and be a full go, but, you might have to limit him a little bit in terms of how much you play him on special teams, how many snaps you give him defensively, just because, it's his first game back and first game ever, and then first, really time back full go in a while. He missed almost 3 weeks, I think, with whatever that injury was. So valuable time lost for him, but hopefully he can kind of ball out. He'll have that 4th preseason game. Obviously, that might mean more to him than anybody else on this team. So hopefully he can just get out there, have some good tape, and build on for the finale.
Yeah, and one other guy maybe we'll get to see for the first time. I don't know. Vince Williams working back from that hamstring injury. We've yet to see him so far this preseason. You would think that they'd like to get him out there for a couple of series along with Mark Barron and Devin Bush there. So that's yet another guy. And what was the other list of the walking wounded?
I think that was the bulk of it, right? Yeah, Vince should play. He's been so close for feels like a week now, or maybe even more.
Yeah, Joe Hayden, I'm not sure if he's going to play. You said he's kind of moving around, and there was pictures of him starting to move around a little bit better, so we'll have to see what happens there. Christian Scotland Williamson, what's going to happen there? With that, what are they calling that? Groin hamstring, I guess.
I think it's a hamstring, left hamstring.
Soft tissue, whatever, is the only way Mike Tomlin's going to characterize that thing right now. So we'll have to see what's going to happen with him. Look, with that practice squad eligibility and all like that, and him being still kind of green, I just it's going to be super hard in my opinion for Scotland Williamson to make the 53 this year. But I guess stranger things have happened. Zach Gentry, what's going to happen with Zach Gentry? That's another one that sat out the second preseason game. Danny, we don't expect him to go, and then obviously the other one that sat out the game against the Chiefs was Vince Williams.
Yeah, pretty healthy, though, overall. Can't complain. Hopefully Adani's able to work his way back. I know he was on crutches briefly after his surgery, but he's off crutches now. And as we talked to Dr. Mello last week, she thinks that he'll be back for probably week 2. So good news across the board, I think, from an injury standpoint, though that tight end situation is still really murky.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have a post coming up pretty soon. We don't want to spoil it yet. I'm assuming maybe you'll have that together by the Friday show about potential tight end targets for the Steelers.
Yeah, it's going to be just my whole kind of waiver wire trade cut down, targets in general. So there's some safeties on there, although safety might be less of a pressing need than tight end. Yeah, I don't want to spoil the list right now, and sometimes players get released and hurt. I mean, there was one player on my list who just got cut yesterday, so I'm going to have to go through the tape on these guys a little bit. But I'll put it this way. The list will not be impressive, and the tight end market is very, very poor to the point where it might not even be worth trading for anybody. You just see what happens at roster cutdowns, or you just roll with Zach Gentry as your number 3. It's that poor out there in the market.
Yeah, I had mentioned a guy like Jake Butt, but I'm not even sure how much he was, his first game back last night. I haven't checked the snap counts from that Broncos 49ers game, which, by the way, Jimmy Garoppolo, oh Lord,
yeah, not good.
His first game back from the injury didn't look too good at all. And I'm trying to look here to see if Jake Butt played any snaps. And look, here's the other thing is Noah Fant went down with some sort of, I think, an ankle injury for them. So who knows, with the severity of that. I think I saw where he was in a walking boot after the game. And who knows, that might twist their arm on making a few decisions that way as well, too. I'm not seeing where Jake Butt even played last night. So that's obviously, a guy that's had the injury history that he's had. Yikes.
Yeah, he makes Vance McDonald like Cal Ripken. Like, that's how bad Jake Butt's injury history. I feel for the guy. I mean, he's just been unlucky, but he's had 3 torn ACLs, I think, in the since coming out of college.
Yeah, that and I think they have Jeff Harmon over there, and I don't even think he's suited up last night either there. So, not much really from there are probably going to be a few of them that are out on the streets. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, probably. But again, the list is not impressive. They may end up just if they want to make a move. If Tampa Bay cuts Jordan Leggett, I'll spoil one name, and that's a pretty obvious one because the Steelers tried to claim him early in the offseason. They may go with Leggett. But honestly, if Gentry can get healthy enough for hopefully this 3rd game, but definitely the 4th one, you may just roll the dice and say, you know what, let's not even bother cutting Gentry and all that stuff. We're not going to get an upgrade there. Let's just keep him as a number 3. It may come to that.
And I'm guessing the 49ers aren't ready to turn George Kittle loose just yet, right?
You can only hope. Yeah. What could have been? What could have been?
What could have been?
All right, Dave, I think it's enough from Tomlin. Let's go back to the Chiefs game. I'm sure you've gotten to rewatch it a lot. I've gotten to rewatch it a little, probably a little less than what I would have liked to. But any impressions you had on your 3rd or 4th or 5th rewatch of this game that you didn't have on the previous show?
I thought Mike Hilton played well at the safety position.
But the slot corner felt like a different story with him.
Yeah, especially down the seam, allowing one. I think was it. Trying to think which order they came in. The one. When was the one he was not beat for the touchdown? Did that happen before the touchdown or was it after the touchdown?
Oh, you said the word touchdown a lot there. I can't parse it.
But anyway, he allowed the inside release, I think, on a tight end on one of those down the seam and got beat over the top there, and then obviously the touchdown. You go back tendencies, even in preseason. You go back to that. I think it was the first touchdown that the Chiefs had in that regular season game last year in week 2. Kind of a similar play call. 3-by-1, I think, setting. I think the only difference was there was an empty set in that first one, whereas they had a running back in the second one. But and I think this one was against quarters coverage as well too. And just didn't gain. There was nothing underneath really for Hilton to have to worry about. You would like him to run with Hardman a little bit more up the field, and the safety wasn't there over the top. But I mean, I guess it's flip a coin who you want. Who gets more of the blame there, but it's hard not to blame Mike Hilton in that situation, especially if it was indeed kind of a quarters call there. He didn't look great in the slot. That's what I said. I thought his better snaps actually came at the safety position where he had a pass breakup, and really technically, I guess another one. He took the legs out. Was it wide receiver or tight end that went up for a ball over the middle that he got him up underneath, and the receiver couldn't hold on to the ball there. But that stuck out to me, I think, in going through the game again.
Well, real quick with Hilton, I haven't typed it up yet, so I'm just counting based off my written notes, but I think Hilton played about 15 snaps at safety, and so he got a pretty extended look there. That's probably going to be more of a case of emergency kind of deal, but yeah, he got a much longer look there than he ever has before, and than what I expected.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin was asked yesterday after practice, do you think the versatility of guys like Mike Hilton, Cameron Sutton, and Cameron Kelly, versatility is something you can lean on? He says, I think the versatility of all guys, it's just one snapshot. We've been doing similar things on the other side of the ball with the tackles, for example. Position flexibility has to be an element, particularly when you're talking about adding quality depth. You can turn 53 men into 60 if you've got good position flexibility, and that's what we strive to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you're not a starter, if you're a backup, offensive line, cornerback, defensive back, whatever, being able to play multiple hats really adds to your value. And speaking of the slot position, they were rotating Cameron Kelly into that slot spot with the first team against 12 personnel against these bigger two tight end sets. So they took Hilton out and brought in the much bigger Cameron Kelly. So talk about guys who are almost certainly to make the team right now is Cameron Kelly, and he may see actually regular season action if they want to be able to rotate their nickel package and bring in somebody to defend someone that's going to run a lot of two tight end sets.
How much has he been playing on special teams too? I assume quite a bit. I forgot to check that before we got on the podcast here. Cameron Kelly only played 3 special team snaps the other night.
Yeah, I wonder what he played in the first game. But just the way that they're using him and the way he's performed tells me his spot's feeling very safe.
Yeah, we expect him to keep 4 safeties, right? And, Cameron Kelly being one of them. And right now it's hard to imagine Jordan Dangerfield not being the other one unless they go out and make some sort of move, to acquire somebody else. But the safety they would acquire on the outside as a backup probably isn't going to be as good of a special teams player as Jordan Dangerfield is. So to me, maybe Cameron Kelly's spot, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I would lean to them probably not addressing the safety position, more so the tight end position on the outside here in these next couple of weeks than I would the safety position.
Yeah, I think you're right in terms of the positional needs, but then you wonder about the market, and I think there's going to be better safety options than tight end options that just might make it more attractive to bring in a better talent at safety than it is tight end. So it might just depend on exactly how these next couple weeks go, and then obviously what you can get. Because if tight end, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, which is the one big reason I say they may not make a move there, although ideally it'd be nice to add somebody.
All right, what else stuck out in the game against the Chiefs?
Well, I always like when you post the snap counts because I think it does help give some sort of gauge. And really with this week, too, you can kind of see, and I'll probably have an article on this later today, maybe tomorrow, kind of on movers and shakers. You get an idea of the depth chart flipping for the first time. So someone like Duran Gray jumps ahead of a J.C. Hassenauer, and I think Hassenauer played 3 snaps after he played like 30 the week before against Tampa, and Gray plays about 30 this week. So you kind of see some of those things. How about Johnny Holton only playing 7 snaps? They talk about a big loser from this one. He still got special teams value, but you thought he would get more action as a receiver. How about Henry Mondo, I think, running ahead of a guy like Levon Hooks, who only got 8 snaps. So I think Levon Hooks' days are very much numbered in Pittsburgh, and I've said that for a while now, that I think you just turn the page on him and that you add somebody like a Mondo with more pass rush energy and juice and potential, where Hooks is just kind of a big clogger. He was running behind Mondo after running ahead of him against Tampa Bay. So I look at those things and you start seeing I know there's no official depth chart, but there is one internally, and you can kind of see those things change and manifest themselves from week 1 to week 2.
Yeah, right from that first heading into training camp, and I thought maybe there was a shot maybe for Hooks as a practice squad player, but it's become quickly evident throughout the preseason here that Mondo, and look, I think Mondo's a good player, and I think he has good. Will he make the 53? I don't think so. I think that spot's ticketed for a guy like Bugs to be the number 6 guy, along with Daniel McCullers being the number 5 guy right now. But Mondo, really looks like I don't want to say a slam dunk, but an inside track, I guess, for a practice squad spot right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that's the most impressive guy there. So that was what stuck out to me from the snap count. Like I said, I want to go through this game a little bit more. I like the job the offensive line did. What stuck out to you? Anything else?
You posted the snap of Skippers. Shocking. We realized it was Cam Irving over there, but this guy has consistently done that kind of stuff throughout the preseason.
Yeah, I just care about the trait, and yeah, I know it's Cam Irving, but it's also Kozora Skipper, who's a rookie tryout guy, and Irving's going to be on an NFL roster. So, I know we're not talking about Anthony Munoz over here, but it's still a guy that's going to be on an NFL team and as a backup tackle who's got some pedigree. So I just like seeing the traits that I saw at Latrobe translate to the NFL. And the clip I showed was him, Skipper, with a really good punch to kind of stun Irving back and help. Maybe he didn't win the play, but just showing that power that he has, nice tight hands and a violent punch. And so those are things we sit there and say with some more experience and some more reps and coaching, you might turn this guy into something. So you're seeing those little pockets and little moments of a guy flashing, and that's what makes Kozora Skipper really attractive for a practice squad stash in year one.
Yeah, but the glaring thing that I keep, and I know people hate us going back there. I know there are a lot of Kozora Skipper fans right now that think that he belongs on the 53-man roster, but the fact that he's had just three special team snaps so far in the first 2 games, and all 3 of them came against the Chiefs, and really, that's not quite his forte, just as it wasn't Adene's last year during as a rookie there. It's going to be hard for Skipper, I think, to make the 53, and I'm not really concerned about him, clearing waivers and making it to the practice squad. I think he's right now. He, like Henry Mondo, I really think he's got the inside track at a practice squad spot. He's really going to have to. And there are 2 games remaining now, and a lot of people can make moves. I'm sure Mike Tomlin's preaching that up right now, and getting to the stage where he shows them that tape of a Roosevelt Nix or a Terrence Garvin or something along those lines. Guys that have made the roster by making plays in those final preseason game or 2 there. But I just see it going to be honestly kind of tough for a guy like Skipper as we sit here right now. And Gilbert, I thought Gilbert played fine. He played 41 snaps, and a little bit better competition there. He did play 9 special team snaps, and I think didn't he have an assisted tackle or a tackle on special teams? So that will help. He was part of that first punt return or punt coverage team as well too. So that bears watching. I think going into this 3rd preseason game as well too. And you talk about guys that are on the bubble, and especially with Adene, depending on his week 1 status. Could you potentially need or use a guy like Gilbert on special teams in that first week or 2? And I think it's possible. Obviously he's got the lead over a guy like Sutton Smith right now, but I think in his 3rd preseason game, we've seen enough out of Gilbert. I think obviously we're going to see more and want to see more as an inside linebacker, but definitely want to see him, get a couple more chances on special teams moving forward here.
Sure. Assuming you keep 9 linebackers in total, 1 will be inactive on game day in all likelihood, and right now that's Adene with the injury. So, yeah, if Gilbert makes the 53 for week 1, assuming Adene's down, which is a pretty good bet at this point, Gilbert's going to be active. So you need special teams value guys that are going to help you out there, absolutely.
Let's see. Johnny Holton, we'll have to see what happens with him this time around. Who are your gunners right now? Artie Burns and Justin Lane?
For week 1 against New England?
Yeah, well, assuming guy
Lane won't be active. So
if he's not, then who's going to be your other gunner?
Yeah, Artie's definitely one of them. Cam Sutton potentially. I haven't gone through a list here. Probably another corner. I think so.
Okay.
I mean, because there's no receiver that could do it.
Holton can do it.
Well, if Holton makes the team, but I don't have Holton
Right.
on my 53 right now. Yeah, Holton for sure if he makes the team. I mean, absolutely. He's going to do it in the preseason. One other thing I noted from this game, and really the whole preseason, and it might be an obvious point, but so much more so in this camp than any other camp I've attended before, and this is now 6 straight years for me going to Latrobe. I've seen this coaching staff just preach and just yell out after almost every play, rip that ball out for the defense, really having a turnover focused camp more than ever before, where that's the DBs on the jugs machines before and after practice, which was Trey Lawson's mandate, whether that's the coaching point, whether they work on individual drills, ripping the football out one-on-one or in team. Even though they didn't really force a lot of fumbles this year, they were just, they would always rip the ball out or attempt to, and have the player have to secure the football and stuff like that. And I think I've really seen that translate through the first 2 weeks of the preseason. Through these first 2 games, Tampa and KC, this team has forced 6 fumbles. I think 2 of them technically didn't go down as fumbles. One was Cam Sutton against Tampa at the end of a play. One was PJ Locke, who the ball came out. Maybe they was down by contact at that point. But this team's really getting after the football. Obviously, Edmonds and Marcus Allen had 2 forced fumbles in the KC game. You had one from Matakevich in the opener versus Tampa Bay. So I really like the mentality of this defense, and I think what's been preached and coached in practice is now carrying over to the game. And this is the number one issue for me. I've talked about it to anyone who will listen about how many more takeaways this defense needs, how they have to hit 25 this year. So I like where they're at from a mentality standpoint, and they're really getting after the football, which warms my heart.
Absolutely, and that magic number is something we're probably going to need to have some sort of weekly countdown.
Honestly,
for turnovers, because 25 sure is that magic number. It seems like. I guess a few minor things to kind of talk about here, starting to move away from the game, but in the same notion, talk about it a little bit. What do you make of a guy like Matt Feiler? What do you make of a guy like Matt Feiler not yet logging any snaps at right tackle, and then Mike Tomlin not wanting to kind of tip his hand as to who the starting right tackle is? Do you look? I realize Matt Feiler's got a lot of experience, and he started the 10 games last year at right tackle, and in place of an injured Marcus Gilbert and all, but. And look, there are 2 preseason games left too for Feiler to get some work at right tackle. Do you read anything into Feiler not playing any yet at right tackle?
It's probably not ideal for him, but no, I don't read anything into it. Matt Feiler's going to be your starting right tackle when they play New England. I'm not surprised Tomlin's keeping it close to the vest, because that's what Tomlin does. He keeps everything close to the vest. He'll play right tackle this week, assuming that everyone's healthy. Pouncey and Castro get back, and even if one of them sits, I'd probably still have Feiler play right tackle. So he'll get his work in this week. I'm not concerned about that.
More than anything, I guess they're giving Banner and Chukwuma Okorafor. I mean, there's no way that they don't keep. Let's see, 5, 7, 9 offensive linemen, right?
8 or 9. Yeah, 9 is the high end.
All right. If you're only keeping 8, who's the odd man out? Is it Fred Johnson?
Yeah, I think so.
Boy, you want to talk about a guy that might not. I'm not one that usually worries.
Oh, you yelled at me last podcast about UG3, and now you're talking about Fred Johnson.
I mean, look, he's obviously got some. He has put some good things down on tape, especially on pulling and and all. And I mean, I suppose you really want to look at that. Well, look, I mean, even if Fred Johnson makes the fit, if they were to keep 9. And Fred Johnson were to make the 53, he's going to be inactive week 1.
Him and Banner have keep 7 on game day.
Right. They like
and Finney and a core for your backups.
Right. So I guess the question becomes is there a spot that you would need to keep that would make Johnson kind of expendable, because we're already resigned to the fact that Johnson's going to be inactive. So if you're going to keep somebody other than him, you would think it would be because that player would be kind of a bottom of the roster player that you would need to dress.
Are you talking about any other position or along the offensive line?
Any other position?
Well, I said this before. If you're going to keep somebody like, say, a Trey Edmonds, you want to go heavy at running back and keep four, that may come at the expense of an offensive lineman, potentially. So that'd be one scenario where I could see that happen. Though I still think Fred Johnson is going to make the 53, but that's a scenario where he wouldn't potentially make the 53.
Right. That's. I still think. I think the mindset of this team is to keep at least 9 for a while, isn't it? I mean, I think one year didn't they even keep 10. Was it due to an injury or something like that? Maybe it was. Trying to recall who might have been banged up. Going back a couple of years ago here, but I would be surprised if they only kept 8 right now.
Yeah, I mean, 9's the norm, and that's why I've had 9, I think, on most of my 53 roster additions, at least the last 2. But if you want to think outside the box, and we'll get to your roster here in a second, because I think for one position you thought a little outside the box. Yeah, I mean, I still expect them to keep 9, and if it's 9, then it'll be Banner and Johnson as your final 2.
The other thing I'd like to cover coming out of the Chiefs game, and it's really kind of insignificant, but it was worth noting, Benny Snell football was Benny Snell short yardage football against the Chiefs. And look, I mean, make no mistake about it, statistically, so far in 2 preseason games, if you're just only going to look at the box score and scout it that way, Benny Snell, just over 2 yards per carry has been nothing to write home about. However, he did get the 4 opportunities in some short yardage situations against the Chiefs, and I thought he performed well in that area there. Now, obviously, one of those that he converted on a 4th and 1 was called back by a Kevin Rader holding call, but I thought he did a good job of missing a tackle, avoiding a tackle on that play. And then really the one that he didn't get, which I think was the play before that on the 3rd one, not good blocking, on that play. I think it was, who was it? Morris and who was it on that side? I'm trying to think that. Maybe,
Gray?
I'm trying.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Morris and Switzer. I think Switzer maybe blew. I can't remember if that was on the 4th and 1 or the 3rd and 1. Anyway, he did a good job of almost getting back to. In fact. I thought he got a bad spot on the 3rd and 1. I don't know how close you've gone back and looked at that, but I personally thought he got a bad spot on that, even though it was ruled short in measurement, it came out and all like that. Now, is that a glimpse, of what's going to happen initially with the Steelers? I don't think so, but I've said, and I wrote about this right after Benny Snell was drafted. He had a nice career at Kentucky in short yardage areas alone. Okay, so over 70% and something like 70-something runs on 3rd and less than 3 or less yards there. So, I knew that was an aspect of his game that would probably be attractive to the Steelers, along with everything else, that he provided there. And maybe at some point, starting in the first quarter of the season, maybe he gets some short yardage looks here and there. But I think that was the only thing that really stuck out to me the most about Benny Snell and his performance Saturday night against the Chiefs.
No, I agree with everything that you said. I know the stats don't look pretty. I think he averaged maybe 2.5 yards a carry, and people were kind of getting on me about that stuff. But, he did well in the situations he had to execute. He moved the chains. He ran with power. He fell forward. And he converted in short yardage situations. So that's, he's 224 pounds. You would hope, he would do well in college at that size, and hopefully he has a ability to kind of create a bit of a niche role in the NFL. No, I don't think he's going to get a lot of work there. I think I've said this before, at the end of a long drive, if it's 3rd and goal and Connor's had 3 straight snaps, and maybe you bring in fresh legs like a Benny Snell, or for a 3rd and 1 situation at the end of a drive, or, just to have somebody fresh, you may get Snell a little bit of work in there, not a lot. But I think that could be a potential role for him. And then, he's shown well on special teams too. And I think he could certainly be someone. I know we talked about Trey Edmonds and his good value on special teams, but it still has really seemed to taken a liking to running down kicks and punts. So good for him, because he's going to have to do it. And I think he's just got the right mentality. I said that so much about Snell shortly after he was drafted. The mentality of being a backup never happened to him before. The mentality of playing on special teams, something I'm sure he's never had to do before, and just had to make that mental adjustment. And obviously I can't speak for him. I'm not inside his head, but just from what I can tell, the way that he shows enthusiasm about running down a punt, and the excitement he has for making a tackle, and the excitement he talks about being a core 4 kind of guy in the preseason, he seems to be adjusting to that very, very well.
And we'll have to see if he gets how Mike Tomlin mentioned. I think that he had a groin injury after that game against Kansas City, so hopefully he'll be good enough to go for whatever playing time he gets. Would get.
Was he in any of the practice photos yesterday? Do you remember?
I don't remember looking, Alex. To be honest with you.
All right, yeah, maybe I'm curious, but hopefully it's minor. Obviously we're not there anymore. We can't tell you for sure who's going or not, but hopefully it is minor.
They do a pretty good job of scanning those photos.
I think maybe we've forced them to a little bit.
They do a pretty good job of what they show in those photos sometimes. I've noticed that.
Yeah, same. All right, Dave, I want to talk about your 53-man roster prediction because you have an updated version with one pretty interesting change to note. Before we do that, we have our sponsors and friends over at Robinhood. So go ahead and tell us about Robinhood.
Yeah, Alex, Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. While other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, Robinhood doesn't charge any commission fees, so you can trade stocks and keep all of your profits. Plus, there is no account minimum needed to get started, so you can start investing at any level. The simple, intuitive design of Robinhood makes investing easy for newcomers and experts alike. View easy-to-understand charts and market data and place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. You can also view stock collections such as 100 most popular. With Robinhood, you can learn how to invest in the market as you build your portfolio, discover new stocks along the way, track your favorite companies, and get custom notifications for price movements so you never miss a right moment to invest. Robinhood is giving listeners of the Terrible Podcast a free stock such as Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help you build your portfolio to begin with. To take advantage of this offer, you need to go to Steelers.robinhood.com. That's Steelers.robinhood.com to take advantage of this promotion. And Alex, I've used Robinhood now, I think, for going on 4 or 5 years. I absolutely love it. I can just pick up my phone throughout the day and see how my stocks are doing. If I see a stock that I think I want to buy, just a couple of taps and I got it taken care of. So we appreciate Robinhood being a sponsor again of the Terrible Podcast. And once again, to take care of that, to take advantage of that offer, Robinhood is giving the listeners of the Terrible Podcast for a free stock such as Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help build your portfolio. Please go to Steelers.robinhood.com.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you to Robinhood for being a continued sponsor of the show. Be sure to check them out. And like I said, Dave, I want to jump into your roster prediction here. I know you only have one change. We can go through position by position group if you'd like, but you do have one pretty noticeable change that I think you hinted at a bit on last show, but let's go ahead and run through it for me.
Yeah, and let me start with the disclaimer that it was either make this one change or submit the same 53-man roster that I had last time. You see, I'm so good at this, Alex, that I pretty much have zeroed into everything, so I have to get creative now on my, to make it interesting. No, I mean, but I mean, honestly, I was close to just submitting the same one that I put in after the game against the Buccaneers. But what fun is that? And being as how we did kind of talk a little bit about one, I guess, very outlying scenario, I thought I would put that in there. Now, we'll run through it real quick. The quarterbacks are still the same for me, Roethlisberger, Mason Rudolph, and Joshua Dobbs. However, I did note that Devin Hodges has my full attention with two preseason games now remaining. We'll talk a little bit maybe here in a bit how the Steelers might go about handling Hodges here in this next preseason game. But and also we'll talk a little bit about Dobbs. You had something up on the site that's worth good discussion. So for now, I mean, I'm keeping it the same. I mean, how many pass attempts does Hodges have so far? 20 something. And it's hard for me to. I mean, you've obviously seen Hodges throughout training camp. You've been impressed by him. I think you're in the corner of they've got to right now. They've got to find a way to keep Devlin Hodges. Yep. I'm not there yet. But there are
should be.
there are 2 preseason games yet, so I left the quarterbacks alone for right now. The running backs, this is where I have one of the changes here. I have a typo here. I forgot to change the 3 to a 4.
They can count. I think they're good.
Yeah,
they're good for it.
I'm sure somebody gigged me for that in the comments there because I made failed to make one small edit there. But obviously, previously I had Connor, Jalen Samuels, and Benny Snell Jr. I have now added Trey Edmonds to the mix. And here's what I wrote. One change in this group this week, so I won't submit the same 53 as last week. Don't think of the inclusion of Edmonds as me keeping a fourth running back. Think of it as me choosing between Edmonds and an extra linebacker when it comes to special teams. Heck, Snell might not even dress the first few weeks if Edmonds is on the 53. I'm not married to this, but I thought it would make at least one change this week, and Edmonds is the guy. Now, do I, if you held my hand to the fire and asked me, do I really think Edmonds is going to be the guy, or that they would keep the 4 running backs in total? No. But I thought I would shake it up a little bit and see what kind of reaction I got from it. And I think most understand it. Obviously, the guy that I had to cut to make room for him, they don't like. But and we'll get to that a little bit later on. Roosevelt Nix, obviously, the fullback sticking. The 6 wide receivers still. Juju, Dante Moncrief, James Washington, Deontay Johnson, Eli Rogers, and Ryan Switzer. I've said it. I've said it several times. I'm not married, especially to a guy like Switzer, but I still have I don't think Deontay Spencer or Johnny Holton have done enough just yet, special teams wise so far, to get me to cut Switzer. However, I think Switzer is the most vulnerable of the 6 wide receivers that I'm keeping right now, and I'm not going to be shocked if he's not on the 53. I'm just putting it out there right now. You and I have had some conversations off to the side, and I understand that he's your punt returner, and I think that's the biggest obstacle right now when it comes to trying to replace Switzer. Is how do you replace the punt return aspect? I'm not so much concerned about what he offers you as a wide receiver as I am from the punt return aspect of it. But we still have 2 more preseason games to go. But for now, I have no reason to leave Ryan Switzer off my 53. Tight ends. I mean, until something else surfaces, I still have the same 3. Vance McDonald, Xavier Grimble, and Zach Gentry. It was sad to see Gentry and Christian Scotland Williamson both be forced to miss the second preseason games with injuries. If Gentry isn't the number 3, it'll likely be a player currently on another team's roster, and we've said that for quite a while now. The offensive lineman we just covered not too long ago. It's still the same 9 in my eyes. Pouncey, DeCastro, Foster, Villanueva, B.J. Finney, Matt Feiler, Okorafor, Fred Johnson, and Zach Banner. Barring injuries or them keeping one less, I just don't see that changing. Defense, I got the same 6 defensive linemen with Daniel McCullers and Isaiah Bugs, Jordan and Tyson Alulu, Hargrave, Tuitt, and Hargrave. Inside linebackers, this is where the move to keep Trey Edmonds showed itself. I have them keeping 4 this time around: Vince Williams, Mark Barron, Devin Bush, and Tyler Matakevich. That meant that Ulysses Gilbert III was the odd man out this time around for me, who will now go to my practice squad. Once again, I'm not don't get on me. I'm not married to this one change, so don't freak out on me because I left Gilbert off this 53. But I think Gilbert needs to play very well on special teams in these final 2 preseason games. I think that's the biggest disclaimer when it comes to him. Outside linebackers, I still have the 4: Bud Dupree, T.J. Watt, Chickalow, and Adaney. Obviously, the question mark with Adaney and that meniscus, but even so, you could potentially, if everybody's healthy, you could see them going into their first game if need be, with just the 3 outside linebackers of Dupree, Watt, and Chickalow. Tuzar Skipper has had a nice preseason, no doubt about it, but he's barely played on any special teams snaps in these first 2 preseason games. And in short, he's likely ticketed for the practice squad as we sit here right now, unless he gets busy on special teams. The cornerbacks, the same 6: Hayden, Nelson, Hilton, Artie Burns, Justin Lane, and Cameron Sutton. By the way, I thought Justin Lane had a little bit better showing this time around, which really, how could he not?
Yeah.
but I thought he stuck out a little bit there, or played better overall in his second preseason game here. Those are the 6 corners and the same 4 safeties: Sean Davis, Terrell Edmonds, Cameron Kelly, Jordan Dangerfield, and of course my specialists are all the same: Chris Boswell, Jordan Berry, and Cameron Canaday. My practice squad, real quick: Derwin Gray, Johnny Holton, Patrick Morris, Christian Scotland Williamson, Henry Mondo, I keep wanting to call him Mondo, Brian Allen, who I think still has eligibility, Marcus Allen, Tuzar Skipper, Ulysses Gilbert III, Tevin Jones, and Sutton Smith. In my practice squad of 11 right now. So, obviously it's fluid with 2 weeks to go right here, and I'm not married to that change of putting Trey Edmonds in over Ulysses Gilbert, but, I thought I would shake it up a little bit this time around.
I have 2 questions about your roster predictions. Did you give any consideration to Devlin Hodges the practice squad, or do you consider that just a non-starter?
I think if you're going to keep him, you're going to keep him, Alex. That's we've talked about it a few times here. If you're gonna if you like him that much, then damn it, just keep him on the 53 and try to find hopefully maybe a trade partner for Joshua Dobbs.
Gotcha. And then I know that your roster is pretty much the same, so I want to throw a different element to you because I think this is almost more difficult than the 53 at this point. Who would be your 7 inactives for week 1?
Yeah, I think somebody.
Did somebody ask you that?
I think somebody asked me that on
Did you answer
Twitter.
it?
Yeah, Johnson and Banner.
Right.
Whoever your third quarterback is.
Yeah. Dobbs in this scenario.
Dobbs in this scenario. Let me roll through this right here real quick.
So that's 3.
Obviously, Bugs would be 1.
Okay. 4.
Probably Adaney.
Yeah, well, he's hurt. Yeah, 5. You got 2 more. Lane going to be up?
Probably Lane down.
Okay.
I think that was the one I put in there. And who was my 7th one?
Did you have Snell? Was Snell inactive?
No, I think maybe I had Deontay Johnson.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So actually, in my 53 right here, it would be Benny Snell if I kept the 4 running backs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, in this scenario.
Yeah,
so you'd have Snell as your 7th inactive?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. All right.
It's easy with the third quarterback. It's easy with the 2 extra linemen. It's easy with a guy like Bugs. It's easy with a guy like Adaney if he's not healthy enough. So really, you're just down to who are your final 2, in actives. And based on this 53, it would be Snell and probably Lane.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense because if you're keeping Edmonds, you want him active on game day. Otherwise, what's the point in you keeping him in the first place? All right, Dave.
And look, when we get into these final 2, I think that's kind of the way you need to reverse engineer this, right?
Yeah, special teams is you need to have some specialists.
Right.
Sure.
So when especially when you get to the final one, reverse engineering this thing and kind of starting who might be your 7 inactives. I know that's the way I've done the exercise in the past.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I know you said it's fluid, but I think that's mostly how it's going to go. Sans any sort of major change or injury, obviously. Could throw a monkey wrench into this thing. But what I want to go to next here, Dave, is an article I wrote this morning because we've talked about Devlin Hodges so much, and rightfully so. And everyone's saying, get rid of Josh Dobbs, and most people want to try to trade him. And I think a lot of people have said, try to get a 5th or 6th round pick for him. And I wondered, what is the potential real value of Josh Dobbs? Because I've said this before, we've seen the Steelers make a lot of trades, send players out, bring players in, and they always have a pretty decent NFL resume in terms of playing on Sundays, playing in the NFL, being active on game day, whereas Josh Dobbs has 12 career pass attempts. So I was wondering, what is the history of teams that have traded for quarterbacks with such a limited regular season resume? And I've gone over the last 5 years. I've looked at all the quarterback trades. It's been 23 in total, starting with Ryan Mallett in 2014 to Joe Flacco this past summer. And what I've found is that there's basically been 6 names of guys with similar lack of production on Sundays as Josh Dobbs: Ryan Mallett, Matt Barkley, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett, Cardell Jones, and Kevin Hogan. And basically, aside from Garoppolo, who was obviously like a top pick and kind of an exception to the situation, all these other guys were traded for 7th-round picks or conditional 7th-round picks or essentially not much. So I think with Dobbs, best case scenario, here's the bottom line, is that you're going to get nothing more than a 7th-round pick for him, probably a conditional pick. So I think he has even less trade value than what some of us have even said.
Well, I mean, I've said all along I didn't think he had much, right?
Yeah, well, I wanted to define what
right.
much
and
or not much was.
I mean, that took a lot of time. I mean, it's excellent research there. Here's the thing. Let me ask you. Do you think there are any teams out there who would value Dobbs as a backup quarterback, being one snap away?
Sure. Maybe if they're desperate enough. And obviously it only takes one team to just be like, no one cares about my study when talking about trading for Josh Dobbs. I mean, if some team gets desperate enough, they could give whatever they want to give. And some situations might be desperate enough. I'm looking at Jacksonville. Their situation's pretty poor. Dallas, maybe. I know Mike White has really struggled over in Dallas. So potentially for a team that's in a really bad place, and obviously an injury can change things. But the guy's got 12 career attempts, and that Oakland game was pretty poor last year. So you're trading him just based off of the theoretical, you liked him coming out of the draft and you like some of his preseason tape, but that's not worth a whole lot anymore, especially for a league that carries, half the NFL carrying just 2 quarterbacks. So, I mean, maybe you can get something for him, but I think it's at best a 7th-round pick. It's not even the 5th or 6th-round pick that some, and myself included, have kind of just thrown out there before. It's minimal, if anything, for Josh Dobbs.
If push came to shove right now, if today was the day, okay, and your cut down is due by 4:00 Eastern today, okay, and a team offered you right now a 7th-round pick for Joshua Dobbs, would you take it?
Oh man!
In other words, it would mean you're putting Hodges on your 53 because.
Sure.
And look, there's some great. I know we've gotten some submissions and some people have tweeted us and all like that. What do we think about the Steelers only carrying 2 quarterbacks and keeping Hodges? In other words, doing something with Dobbs and keeping Hodges on the 53. Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin, I think both have said it time and time again. They are of the 3 quarterback on the 53 mind. So I mean, it would be outrageously out of character for them to only carry 2 quarterbacks, And so I mean, is it impossible, as I like to say? I mean, look, I'm not going to speak in a definitive there, but I would be highly surprised if the Steelers went into the regular season with just 2 quarterbacks and tried to keep a third on the practice squad there. I mean, it's a great exercise. It's a great suggestion and all. It's just Alex and I are big on history and trends, and when it comes to Steelers, they just got a large history of keeping 3, and I think Colbert has explained why in the past. Now, obviously, you have to have one of these guys inactive now. Or you don't have to, but I mean, it's part of the inactive thing now. So it would be really out of character if they did. So with that said, would you trade Dobbs for a 7th-round draft pick if you had to do your roster cut down by 4:00 today?
Well, I'm very glad I don't. So I reserve the right to change my answer on this. Is this a concrete 7th-round pick, or is this a conditional 7th-round pick? I think there's a difference.
Mostly you see these 6th-rounders as being conditional a lot of times.
Barkley got traded for a conditional 7th. Cardell Jones got traded for a conditional 7th. So, I mean, is this a 7th-round pick that's concrete, guaranteed, or is this based on him having to do something? Can you just answer that?
Geez.
We just assume that it's a set in stone 7th-round pick.
Yeah, let's guaranteed. Just assume that it's the 7th round.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's tough.
I mean, does it even matter if it's conditional or not?
Well, I mean, I like to have it guaranteed just because, I want to know I have it.
Well, what you're telling me is that one fact would cause you to keep Dobbs over Hodges?
I just want to know I always want to know all the information before I make an answer and get yelled at by our listenership.
You get a concrete 7th for Dobbs. Man, you are a stickler for details.
I drive a hard bargain, Dave. Don't buy used cars from me or Kevin Colbert.
You probably count receivers catching passes off the jugs machine too.
Once or twice, been known to have it. Short answer. Would I do it? Yeah, I think I would at this point. And it's so frustrating. No one frustrates me more than Josh Dobbs because, Dave, this guy is so close to being a really good player in the NFL. He has almost every trait you need to be an effective quarterback. He's got the arm, he's got the mobility, the leadership, the intangibles, the ability to improvise. I think his decision making is good. Ability to show some touch when he needs to. I mean, just all the traits are seemingly there. The work ethic, the 1-2, but that accuracy. It's the biggest trait, and he just doesn't have it. And I don't think it's going to get better. And I don't know. You have Mason Rudolph as your number 2. Dobbs is going to be gone in a year or two. His value's not going to probably get any better the longer he goes on. Yeah, I might give him up for a 7th, but I did that study to kind of show the point of if you trade for Dobbs, you're trading him for very, very little.
What if the Ravens offered you a 6th?
All right, I asked this question. I threw this question to you on Friday 5. You're throwing this at me. No, I'm not trading him to Baltimore. I'm not trading him in the division.
Because you're afraid of what you might give them?
A little bit of that. I just, on principle, I don't like to do it that often, especially with a quarterback. And the quarterback's going to know my whole offense and everything that I do, and that's another element that I wouldn't want to give that kind of intel to my opponent.
All right, now I don't want to say leading the charge with Devlin Hodges, but I mean
I am not leading the charge. I like Devlin Hodges, but I'm not. Everyone else is saying cut Dobbs sucks, Hodges is GOAT, and I'm not in that camp.
Right, but you are in the avenue of they've got to find a way to keep him though.
Yeah, I've been incredibly impressed by Devlin Hodges, and that kind of segues into something I wanted to talk about. I forgot to mention was my training camp stats recap that I go through. It takes a lot of time to do, so I like to just look at the numbers. And I'm not married to this. This is a very small part of the evaluation, but I thought Hodges especially had some really interesting numbers when I compiled all the stats. And I'm so glad I did yards this year because I think the yards helps paint this picture all the more than in past years. And so Hodges finished this year in training camp, 61 of 85, for 646 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 2 picks. His 10.6 yards per completion was by far the best on the team, a full yard above Josh Dobbs in second place, and Ben came in at 9.3. His 71.8 completion percentage, not only was that the best of any of the 4 quarterbacks in Pittsburgh this year, of the 6 years I've been tracking this stuff, it's the best completion percentage I've ever looked at, even above Ben. Ben had the previous record in 2015 at 69.7%. Hodges at 71.8%. So he's the first to crack the 70% mark. So, I mean, you're seeing a guy that was efficient and still drove the ball vertically with that 10.6 yards per completion and has carried it over into stadiums. He's doing stuff I've never seen from a number 4 quarterback in a Steelers uniform before.
Will he, at worst, land on somebody's practice squad? I think
it's going to be somewhere. I think he's shown enough good tape in stadiums to make teams want to take a look when injury strikes.
Why wouldn't you then keep him over a guy like Dobbs right now?
I might. I haven't made that decision yet. I mean, I don't know who I would keep as a number 3 today. And like I said, I have 2 weeks here to still figure it out, and I'm going to take every snap and every opportunity to wait and make that decision. But I think you want to just keep getting longer looks at Hodges and make sure that this dude's legit and the clock's not gonna strike midnight and he's gonna go back into being a 4th round or undrafted, number 4 quarterback. But so far so good. But I want to take that. I want to take it up to the 11th hour for him.
With 2 preseason games left, I don't think they made a decision. I think they're still possibly open to it.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm open to it. Yeah, I mean, look at Josh Dobbs. He won in the finale last year. So, this team's comfortable with waiting until the last second to make a decision, which is fine. Take all the time you need to figure this thing out.
Now, with that, okay, with this 3rd preseason game, how much, if any, do you really need to see out of Joshua Dobbs in these final two preseason games?
I know where you're going. I know we talked about this on the previous show that you would, you probably want to see more from Hodges than Dobbs, but I still would like to give Dobbs the opportunity because he's still a relatively young guy, and I just want to make sure I have the biggest evaluation on both guys in general. But point taken, I need to see Hodges more than I need to see Dobbs.
I mean, Dobbs is kind of who he is right now, right? I mean, we have enough info on him.
I mean, more than Hodges, sure, but I like to keep giving these guys that are fighting for jobs opportunities at every step that I can, just because they're fighting for a job, and I want to see how they respond to being in that environment.
If they are indeed that open to Hodges possibly winning that third spot, what I would do in this third preseason game is look. I mean, everybody, a lot of our listeners probably want Ben to play the entire first half. Push come to shove, I think I'll be surprised if that happens. I think he gets about the 3 series and 20-something snaps and all like that. And I honestly think look, Rudolph still needs as much playing time as he could possibly get, I think. So as soon as Roethlisberger exits, I put Mason in to close out whatever series you have in the first half, and then I want Mason coming out of the locker room and probably handling – a couple. I want Mason to have a good, maybe 4 series at least, in his third preseason game against the Titans. And then, what I would do? I would tell Ducky to get in there, and I want to see him as much as possible against what might be some quality players on the other side of football. Because let's face it, I mean, he hasn't seen really some good playing time against guys that are probably going to be on NFL rosters this year. So I think that's the way I would handle it. I would easily give Duck Hodges the fourth quarter and a good portion of the third as well too.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I'm not opposed to that at all. I would even take it a step further and say, regardless of what you do with Hodges this game, play him a lot, not at all. I might want him to start the finale. I just want to see how he handles starting. Like, I want to throw new things at him. I know it's going to be against a lot of backups, and it's not that we're going to see better competition, but I just kind of want to see how he handles being a starter and how he prepares and goes through those motions. I just want to keep throwing new challenges at him to feel as comfortable or make him as uncomfortable as possible, so I feel comfortable with my evaluation of him.
Right, but I mean, even so, I mean, the offensive line is going to be playing behind him. Now, look, I'm not.
Well, he's going to do regardless. He's going to be playing in the fourth game, playing behind a pass.
Absolutely is.
It's not about competition. It's just about the mindset of how he handles being a starter. It's a different mindset.
Right, and what I'd like to see is, and especially if he gets in. Let's say you sit Dobbs in this third preseason game. And you give all that time to Devlin Hodges, okay? In this fourth preseason game, heck yeah, I'm all for Devlin Hodges starting that. But I think at least, and playing, the first half, let him start and play the entire first half, and then. But I still think you got to give Dobbs the opportunity to respond. In other words, I mean, how are you going to get Rudolph time in that finale?
Maybe I don't. I don't know. It's a good question.
So look, I am at the point where with Devlin Hodges right now through 2 preseason games and 20-something pass attempts, whatever it is he has, that he deserves more looks.
Yeah, I think that's the minimum that you have to say with him.
Right. I mean, this obviously isn't Bart Houston. This obviously isn't, I don't know, who was
Brendan
it? Johnson.
Kay and John Parker Wilson. Yeah.
John. What was it? Johnson kid.
Gerard Johnson.
A few years ago. I mean, this is more than that at this point. I think your analysis of training camp backs it up and what we've seen so far. And look, this. I mean, he's letting it all hang out. Now has he been? Has he been? Look, there's been some drops that he's been a victim of, but he's also had some off-target passes. He had the one bad decision that probably should have been picked. That wasn't. So he hasn't been perfect, but I mean, he's played better than any fourth stringer we've seen in a long time.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So we'll see. Hopefully Tom will be asked about that. He'll probably be pretty coy on Fridays. It's Friday now. Is his presser?
Yeah, Friday's his presser. Well, I mean, I would lay it out there. I would have no issue if I'm Tomlin. I'd have no issue laying out exactly how the quarterback rotation.
Tomlin's yet to do that, so I
know, but I mean, third preseason game. I mean, I don't see there's any harm in it.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But to go back to my training camp stats, that was the thing with Hodges that really impressed me. 71.8% and having the best yards per completion. It's just nuts. I mean, just unheard of stuff. Dobbs' completion percentage was only 53%. It's fallen every single year. His rookie year was actually his best, 57, 55, 53. So next year probably be 51 based on how that's going. Running backs, Benny Snell led the team in carries and yards. No surprise there. I want to get a really long look at him. James Conner, only 23 carries. They just really wanted to be careful with James Conner this camp, not run him too hard, play him in the preseason game, and that was really about it for him. Receivers, Juju led the team in receptions, targets, yards, touchdowns, all stuff he'll do in the regular season. Deontay Spencer and Johnny Holton led the team in yards per reception. Holton had 19.7 per catch, Spencer 14.3. Grimble and McDonald found the end zone a whole heck of a lot for whatever that's worth.
Be nice if you could make one player out of Johnny Holton and Deontay Spencer.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Get a guy that can return all kicks, a guy that can play as gunner. I keep going back to that praising that Mike Tomlin gave of Johnny Holton last week.
I think it was less praising than what you're giving. Like, he was asked the question, how much did you know about Johnny Holton? The guy was just like, Tomlin was just, we knew about him. He had an NFL resume.
And I keep going back to that special teams resume. I mean, the guy's a good special teams player,
Yeah, that's more interesting to me than anything Tomlin's ever said about Johnny Holton.
Well, I mean, I'm using that from him, highlighting that, thinking that that's what he was pointing to. With that, but I was hoping to see more, especially out of Holton as a receiver in that game, and we just didn't see it.
He played 8 snaps, I think, 7-8 snaps. So that was kind of weird that he didn't play much.
Okay, what else do we have?
What else do we have? I think that was about it. That was everything I have in my notes. Yeah, check out the camp stats they posted yesterday. 20 interceptions for this defense, so back-to-back years with 20 picks. I know that didn't mean a whole lot last year, but maybe it'll mean a little bit more this year. Steven Nelson, Cam Sutton tied for the team lead in interceptions, and that's all I got.
All right, shall we get to some reader emails here?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, let's. Jay Barbardi's back. Wants to ask us about some over and unders, I guess, for the season. Juju's longest play, 96.5 yards over under. I'm taking the under on that. I mean, no disrespect, but I just don't see another 90-yard touchdown in Juju's future in 2019.
I'll take the over, because if I would have bet the under the last 2 years, I would have been wrong. So why not make it 3 times the charm?
Probably get pretty good odds on that. Even him doing it a couple of times. Number of games with Ben throwing 50-plus pass attempts, 1.5. Are you taking the over or the under?
I'll say 2. I'll take the over.
Yeah, I'll take the under on that. I think he does it once. Sacks by rookies this year, 5.5. Let's see.
What rookies would even be?
It'd be Devin Bush.
I mean, that's a good point.
He could do it.
Yeah, with the way they love to blitz those inside linebackers and the snap count, he's probably going to play. I'll say a push. I'll say Bush has 5 exactly this year.
I mean, who else would? No, he's got 5.5, so you have to take the either.
It's 5.5. I'm sorry, I thought it was 5. Then I'll take the under, and I'm going to go with 5 for Devin Bush.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what other rookies have a shot at making this.
Buggs and Sutton Smith, but Buggs won't be active probably too much, and Sutton Smith probably not even going to make the 53. So it's basically just the question of how many sacks do you think Devin Bush is going to have.
I would take the under. I think Bush can hit 5 though.
I'm really excited about that blitzing component. I think that really fits in well in Pittsburgh.
That's a good number to have to play with though. That 4.5 to 5.5 would be a tough line to kind of gamble on there. Players with at least one game with 100 yards receiving, 5.5. In other words, will 5
different players?
Yeah, 5.5 different players have at least one game with the 100 yards receiving. Well, we think Juju obviously gonna hit that. You would think you would hope that James Washington would have at least one game of 100 yards receiving.
Yeah. Moncrief, is he gonna get a big play?
Yeah, you would think maybe him at least once get a 60 something. Maybe cracking that. Can any other running backs have a?
Vance would be the next one I'd go to.
Vance would be 4.
The line is 5.
5.5.
I'll take the under for sure. Then
I would
5
take the under on that. Watt and Dupree combined sacks 24.5.
Well, I think Watt can hit 15, so that would mean Dupree would need 9, which seems unlikely. So I'll take the under, but maybe only by a little bit. 22 might be a number they could hit.
That's what I was thinking when I pulled this up. Just barely under. Well, I'd like them to both come close to that 24.5. However you want to stack them up. Pro Bowlers 5.5. Wow, it's such a popularity vote. You would think obviously Juju's going to have a shot. James Conner popularity vote.
Some of the linemen, Pouncey to Castro.
Cam Hayward.
I'll also take the under just because AB is not going to be the given like he is every year.
I'll go out. I'll say, and look, I mean, I think if Devin Bush, if he were to win, I think he's got a decent chance to win Defensive Rookie Player of the Year. So
yeah.
With that, I'll go different than you. I'll take the over on that.
Okay.
Let's see. John Crum, first time question. We love first timers. Hey guys, love listening to the podcast. Both of you are very informative and objective, and I really enjoy that, as I'm sure many others do. Thanks for that, John. That's what we strive to do. Seeing Mike Mayock come out and call out AB was much needed, but probably overdue. With that being said, if you had to pick one NFL analyst to be the Steelers GM, who would you pick and why? Boy, it'd probably be the guy at ESPN.
Yeah, Louis Riddick.
Louis Riddick. Yeah. Really, really kind of fair and balanced. I think he's got a good eye for scouting talent. And I think that's important. I think he'd be kind of level-headed when it comes to that. So, yeah, I would probably go with Louis Riddick as my choice. Thanks for the first-time question, John.
You have to choose Stephen A. or Skip Bayless to be your GM. Who are you picking, Dave? You got to pick one of them. I'm going Stephen A. Just because Skip's going to – I couldn't – he's more insufferable.
Yeah, I'd punt.
All right.
Yeah, Jesse Glenn writes in, hey, Dave and I, this is Jesse from New Jersey. I know you guys have gone over this before, but what benefit did the Steelers have into forcing Troy into retirement as opposed to cutting him and letting him play with the Titans? To me, it just seems to be a little unprofessional from an organization that usually does the right thing. Also, why couldn't Troy just unretire and sign with the Titans like he wanted to? Thanks for you guys' time. Jesse, I still have yet to have time to go back and read what all I wrote during that time and all like that. From what I still remember, I do think that they did Troy wrong in that situation. In not just letting him, just let him go, in that aspect. I really, it's been so long ago, and I filed that into part of my brain as not needing it on instant recall. So I promise to get around to that. I might look into that more today. But overall, and look, Troy's obviously miffed about this to some degree. If the guy wanted to go, as much as it would have pained all of us to see Troy in a different uniform, I think they should have let him go and play that at least one season there in Tennessee. So don't want to get too much deeper into that.
And I think the reason why he didn't unretire is the Steelers would still hold his rights. So that's unretiring wouldn't have worked.
Right.
And by the time he didn't have the rights anymore, he would have been older and out of football. No point in coming back then.
Eric Namosek writes in, I listen to you guys while running. Without you, I would never have a good workout. Good Lord, I viewed myself as motivation to somebody getting a good run in. But
I listen to the podcast back sometimes just to hear how it goes while I'm on my exercise bike. So
you do?
I do. I have.
You have an exercise bike?
Yeah. I actually exercise. This job where I sit on my couch all day, I need to move without, getting 300 pounds.
This little dog of mine makes me go up and down the stairs about 30 times a day.
I'm glad someone's got you moving around.
Yeah. Let's see. Not what will the Steelers do, but seeing what you've seen so far, what would you do with these 4 quarterbacks?
Yeah, that's still open-ended. I don't have a great answer yet because I want to see how the next 2 games go. I want to take every minute that I have until the last second to figure this stuff out. But as I said before, with Devlin Hodges, I'm finding a way to try to get him on my team in the facilities in some capacity for week 1. I think right now I have that as being on the practice squad. And keeping 4, which I know is kind of crazy, but I think it warrants it in this pretty rare situation, and go from there. I don't think Dobbs really has any trade value. I think at best it's a conditional 7th. but I'm just gonna let the preseason play out and see what the next 2 weeks tell me.
Eric, as I've stated, look, I as we both stated, these next 2 weeks I think are going to be very interesting here. Hodges definitely has my attention in 2 games so far. I hope that they give him more time in this third preseason game. At the same aspect, I don't have any much to the dismay of maybe many that listen to this podcast. I don't have pictures of Joshua Dobbs or posters of him hanging up on my wall. I kind of questioned the pick at the time that it happened, especially when a guy like George Kittle was out there. I understood why the pick was made. I thought maybe he was overdrafted by at least around there, talking about Dobbs. I will not clutch my pearls at this point right now if Hodges is kept over Dobbs. But at the same aspect, I'm not just from what I've seen right now throwing Dobbs out and keeping Hodges. I'm interested in seeing what happens over the course of these next 2 weeks. And that's honestly where I am at this thing right now. I'm not pounding the table for either one of those 2 guys right now. Is that fair, Alex?
That's fair. Is there anything in particular you want to see from Devlin Hodges these next 2 weeks? An area where you say, like, I haven't seen enough of it or need to see something better? Is there any particular area?
I think personally I'd like to see him drive the ball down the field more. I mean, has he really
with Hodges? I think it's one of his best traits.
Right, but
you see the bullets he was throwing at the end of the KC game, he just launching them deep.
Right. I mean, I just want to see a little bit more of that. I want to see the arm strength. I want to see the ability to drive the football.
Okay.
Down the field. That's I want to see him be able to create the explosive plays.
I think he's done a great job of that. I think that's been in his wheelhouse.
How many explosive deep pass completions does he have so far?
I mean, you can look that up. I mean, he was, even though some of them have been incomplete, like the one to Holton he threw on 3rd and 10 in the Chiefs game. I mean, he's still throwing it deep. I mean, he's got that aggressive mindset. I mean, he's driven almost all. If anything, I'd look for maybe hit his check down a little bit more often when it's there. But he's definitely tested his arm out.
All right, let's see. We've got another one here from Cohen. Greetings from Belgium to Dave and Alex. How about that? Got listeners in Belgium. How impressive does Sutton Smith's 2 preseason games have to be for him to make the 53, or is he purely aiming for the practice squad at this point? Look, he's got to tear it up. I mean, he's got to be Roosevelt Nix.
Yeah.
Got to block a punt or 2. Got to get down there and force a fumble on a punt kick car. He got to be hair on fire right now at this point. I mean, plain and simple, I think is what that's what he's got to do at this point. He's got to make himself uncuttable, and that's going to be tough to do at this point. Ben from California writes in, love the show and the website. I've been following you all for a while. It's been fun to see how things have evolved over the years. Dave, you've got such a great team that you brought together with the perfect mix of objectivity and homerism. You're the heart of Steelers Nation, and it's great to be able to get my Steelers fix from y'all from out here on the left coast, getting insights from you, Alex, Dr. Mel, and your weekly guests during the regular season. I just signed up for the annual ad-free subscription because you do such great work. Thanks for that, Ben.
Thank you.
I hate to bring up yet another question about AB, but I still having a hard time with this with his breakup with the team. I recognize that Antonio was always a bit of a diva, maybe more so than I ever realized, given what Ryan Clark was saying about how he behaved shortly after he got his first contract, but still he seemed pretty wedded to the black and gold. Lately, I've been thinking that the latest version of this diva-ishness, that's my word, isn't it? And his over-the-top crazy behavior, throwing furniture off balconies, delusions of grandeur with helicopters, hot air balloons, and social media, his seemingly out-of-the-blue frustration with Big Ben, his helmet issues, etc., were actually triggered by that Vontaze Burfict hit in the playoffs against Cincinnati. Could AB's dramatic change in behavior be the result of head trauma? Literally, is the guy no longer a Steeler because of brain damage? I'm thinking Dr. Mel might want to weigh in on this one. I'm not going to even pretend to know the answer to how much that hit. And look, I mean, he's taken others, maybe some that we don't know about. That I mean, he's gotten clocked a few times.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. College, high school doesn't have to just be the NFL either.
Right.
Everyone gets hit.
I mean, I guess you're asking, is it possible that there may be some early CTE or whatnot going on there? I think it is possible, but at the same token, man, to hear Ryan, I mean, I don't think Ryan Clark is surprised at what AB's become, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
could all of a little bit of this play into a part of this? I'm not ready to rule it out, but money does strange things to people too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, who knows? I'm not going to speculate on his health. I mean, sure, is it possible? Players have developed those issues before. Chris Henry, with concussion-related issues that manifested itself early instead of late in someone's life. But I'm not going to speculate. I have no idea, and I'm not going to try to give an evaluation for something like that.
And this whole helmet thing, man, it's crazy. Look, I understand the superstitions, and I would think that couldn't you get a helmet that with the same kind of face mask that allows you to see? I mean, I understand that. Look, it's like baseball players with bats, but bats.
Well, this is more of a Linus and blanket situation, the way I've heard it. Like his dude carries his helmet around everywhere.
Right. I mean, I get that. I mean, I get that aspect of it, but I mean, come on, man. I
mean, and the thing is that the longer that you wait without wearing a new helmet, the less time you have to get adjusted to it. Like if he had just worn the helmet, still fought for his old helmet on the side, but been wearing a new helmet, by the time the regular season started, he probably would be well adjusted to it by now. But like the longer that he waits and not practices and all that stuff, the harder of an adjustment it's going to be. So he's just hurting himself in the process by kicking his feet the way that he is.
Boy, Mike Mayock's got to be pulling it out, whatever.
Well, you heard him the other day. I mean, imagine that's what he says publicly. Imagine what he's saying privately. I mean, Mayock is. That's. I still think AB's going to be there week one, and things will calm down for a little bit, and he'll make plays, and people will kind of forget about this stuff. But as you always say, when's the next thing going to happen? And that could be if this team doesn't play well, and AB not getting the reps in, not working with Carr, certainly not going to help that relationship and that chemistry.
And I think the biggest thing too, man, he's missed all. I mean, look, I know he's arguably the best wide receiver in the league, but you need reps, and especially with a new quarterback. I mean, you got to learn that offense and all. And how much do you think he really knows the playbook right now? You know?
Yeah, I mean, he's apparently in meetings he's not paying attention, which is par for the course.
And I keep saying, when is the next thing? This is not going to end well whenever it ends. Right. I mean, yeah, he might have a great. He might end up, putting up great stats again this year, but this is not going to end well.
Right. As AB says, time and time again, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And he certainly hasn't gotten better over what's happened in the last month.
Ben, thanks for the email, and thanks for being a ad-free subscriber as well, too. Gregory Simmons writes in from Northern Virginia. There's been much debate over Eli Rogers, Ryan Switzer, Tevin Jones, Johnny Holton, Spencer. To me, Eli Rogers is the number 4 or 5, depending on the development of Deontay Johnson. So for the last spot is between 4 people. Switzer, valve to the team as a kickoff and punt returner. Value to the team as a kickoff punt returner. As a 6th receiver, is primarily third-team slot guy who doesn't receive the ball more than 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. Is a lineup in the backfield and flex out to the slot guy. Is a two-phase special team player. Look, Gregory, that's where I've been on Switzer right now. I think his value is a lot more to you as a return man than it is anything else right now. He's not going to block for you well out of the slot. I hate to go a full game with Switzer playing in the slot and trying to expect that you're going to run the football, Let's see. He has Johnny Holt, has Spencer, value to the team as a kickoff and punt returner. Speed is better than Switzer and has not shown in stadium that he's reliable as a receiver as Switzer. But this year, if everyone is healthy, should not see the field as a receiver. Has the speed to take the top off coverage, but the Steelers have better options. Is a two-phase special teams player. I would agree with you there on that. Holton is not a good thing. Not a good thing for Switzer that the Steelers have used him. Versus Switzer in first 2 preseason games hasn't shown a lot, either good or bad. Has value. He has a V in here instead of these U's. One of his U is broken.
Mm-hmm. So I think he's talking about how Holton's been used as a kick returner.
Right.
Not good for Switzer in that regard.
Come in that is an outside receiver, something different than Switzer and Spencer. Has the speed but isn't very quick. His only He is only a kickoff guy, hasn't shown the ability to do punt returns, ? Is a 2 or 3 phase special teams player. But look, he's a great gunner. I'll give him that. And okay kick returner. Would be a Darius Haywood Bay backup, fifth or sixth wide receiver in my eyes. Tevin Jones is a tall receiver from my understanding, is an outside the numbers guy. I personally don't have a path to the 53, isn't a special teams player, and the Steelers have better options 4 or 5 deep. He goes on to say the key to who make it isn't totally dependent on them. If Deontay Johnson is able to handle the kickoff and punt return duties, that gives the Steelers more options. If Johnson can do both, that will allow the Steelers to keep a Holton or Jones and have them inactive on game day. If not, Switzer, Spencer are now in play and Johnson be inactive on game day, although Rodgers could handle the punt returns and Holton the kickoffs, but would man that all 6 receivers would have to be active, would mean that all 6 receivers would have to be active during game day, which isn't likely. Gregor, I think you outlined everything real well there. I don't know or see that there's a question in there, and I think it's a lot of the reason why I still have Switzer in there right now. I think Eli Rogers is more valuable to this team right now for Switzer. I don't view Tevin Jones as being in this race at all right now.
Who has better odds of making the 53, Deontay Spencer or Johnny Holton? You had to pick one.
I got to be honest with you. It would be Holton, and it's because of his ability to go down and cover kicks.
Okay, fair enough.
Cover punts.
I got you.
And obviously...
he cover kicks, too. He could do both.
He'd cover kicks, too.
Yeah, I got you.
But
I might lean Spencer, but I hear what you're saying.
Boy, Spencer would take 1 or 2 to the house here.
Yeah, just because he'd be like a 1-to-1 replacement for Ryan Switzer. And maybe give you more in the return game because they're really lacking in that return game. Like I can find someone to probably cover a kick and punt better than I can a return guy.
We're running a little bit long, but I put a shout out for these questions and I've got them. This one is on Deontay Spencer from Derek Wilson. Derek writes in, hey guys, I watched the Steelers versus Chiefs game and I feel like Deontay Spencer made a statement in what he is capable of in a return game. He looked 110% more comfortable returning punts and has also looked much more explosive. I would really like to see him be kept, but I'm afraid of who might have to be cut if he is kept on the team. What are your thoughts on keeping him, and do you think would be a person that would and do you think he'd be a person that would get an axe? And who do we think would be the person that would get the axe if he is kept? If Spencer's cut, I think Switzer's out.
Spencer's kept?
If Spencer's cut, I think Switzer's out. I think any wide receiver that kept,
Okay.
But he's asking, who do we think would be the person?
Yeah, it'd be if Spencer's in, Switzer's out. Yeah, I agree.
Right. I still think there's a tiny chance for him.
If Holton's in, is Switzer the man out, or is it Eli at that point?
Can they?
I think it's still Switzer.
Yeah, I think it is too. Who's going to return punts though?
Eli or Deontay Johnson, but probably Eli based on how Deontay Johnson's gone.
Would you like to see Eli return a punt or two in these last 2? What would you do with the punt return line these last couple? Obviously Spencer's going to get another couple opportunities, right?
Yeah, I want to keep giving Spencer and Johnson the chance. I know what Eli can do. I mean, maybe one, but I know what Eli can do.
All right, and you know what Spencer can do, right?
No, I want to keep finding out.
Switzer.
Oh, yeah, Switzer. Yeah, I know what he can do.
Let's see here. That was that one. Todd Gentzler writes in, I totally appreciate your insight to the behind-the-scene activities of the team. I much appreciate perspective towards this team because of you guys. I also have a great appreciation towards your honest journalism compared to other writers who cover the Steelers. Please don't call me a journalist. That's an insult to journalists. I'm a blogger. That's all I am. I don't know. Alex can call himself whatever he wants, but we appreciate the compliment there. Personally, I think it would be great to see Hodges make the roster. He seems to be able to handle the responsibility of moving the ball downfield and isn't rattled. He seems like a considerable value who will make the Steelers better down the road. I think Dobbs had opportunities last season as well as this preseason so we know what he brings to the Steelers. I also would like to see if we could get Spencer, Deontay Johnson, and also Johnny Holton to make at least a practice squad. My question for you regarding the practice squad: can any team pick up members from the practice squad and add them to their own active roster? It seems like with Spencer, Johnson, Holton, and Hodges are all good enough to be on someone's roster. I would hate to lose them, especially when the game starts to slow down for them. Again, thanks for your research and podcast, Todd in Washington. Here's your answer about the practice squad. Initially after these when teams are trying to set their practice squad, they're obviously looking at their own players first, and players obviously around the league, and inviting them to be a member of the practice squad. Okay, so it's open season on you will once a player's waived, okay, and they clear waivers when it comes to the practice squad setting. Now, once a player is on a practice squad, if a team wants to sign him off of another team's practice squad, they can do so. Obviously, the player needs to agree to it. Sometimes you'll see teams say, look, if you stay here, we'll give you a full what you would make on the 53 with another team, we'll pay you that amount to be a member of the practice squad. You'll see that. However, if a team signs him off of another team's practice squad, he has to be paid. He has to be paid at full salary for at least 3 weeks there. You don't have to keep him on the roster for 3 weeks, but you have to pay him as if he was on your roster for 3 weeks.
I didn't know that.
Right, so if you snatch a guy off of another team's practice squad, you have to give him 3 full roster paychecks.
Okay, I didn't realize that, so that makes sense.
So that's a unique rule about players snatch. Now, when it comes to your own practice squad, you don't have to do that. You can promote a player from your own practice squad. You don't have to pay him for 3 weeks. Okay. Right. But for another team to sign him off of your practice squad, they have to give him three paychecks, 3 game paychecks.
Gotcha.
Where are we here? That was Todd. I think we got through all of them here.
Yeah.
Alex? Okay, cool. And we're right at about the 90, a little bit over 90-minute mark here. Okay, Alex and I will be back at it again Friday talking. Actually, I don't know if we will do this after Tomlin's press conference or not on Friday. Perhaps we should probably wait until after Tomlin's press conference. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, it probably would be the best thing to do.
All right, so regardless, we'll have a podcast up sometime Friday talking about hopefully talking about what Tomlin had to say and previewing the Sunday preseason game against the Tennessee Titans. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do, please donate to the cause. You can go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, up right navigational bar. And as you've seen, according to some of these listener emails, you want to have an ad-free version of the site, you can help us and get a little bit of extra benefit as well, too. Get a year's version of SteelersDepot.com without the ads for $25 by going to SteelersDepot.com and hitting the ad-free button. We certainly appreciate everybody who supports the show through donations, through the ad-free versions, through the emails, just the support on Twitter has been absolutely amazing. We could use your support making one last push here before the regular season gets underway. With that, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.